Hey there, current and future expats of Cuenca. Welcome back to Yapatry, your go-to source for all things Cuenca. Today we have a special video lined up for you. We're going to talk about an essential aspect of expat life here, and that is getting help when you need it. It's not always easy to turn up to support meetings, but hopefully after watching this video, you'll be a little bit more comfortable to get this help should you need it. Let's go. You see, Cuenca is not just a beautiful city, it's a community that cares. And one of the benefits of belonging to this community is the network of support meetings in English that help us navigate life here. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty, let's lay some of the foundation. So support meetings are gatherings where expats come together to share experiences, offer guidance, and this can really help foster a sense of belonging in their new home. These meetings can also serve as a lifeline, especially for those who are new to Cuenca or going through challenging times. Now, whether you're a retiree, new to town, or have been suffering in silence, these meetings are open to you and they can make a world of difference in your expat journey. Today, we're going to meet two different support networks. The first is for meetings such as AA, Anon, overeating, and women's only groups. And the second is a newer group that holds open discussions for people to share their experiences with death. We'll touch on the specifics of each group very shortly. Our first guests belong to the AA community. We're going to sit down with two members, Alex and Chuck, not their real names of course, and we're going to hear their stories. Their experiences will hopefully shed light on why these meetings are so vital in the lives of expats. Let's meet them now. Good morning, Alex and Chuck. Thanks very much for being here today. Let's start with you, Alex. If you don't mind, just maybe giving us a little bit of an insight into your personal journey towards these AA meetings here in Cuenca.
Right, so I moved here 6 years ago, and as part of my scouting out of Cuenca before the move, I wanted to make sure there was English-speaking AA. And it turns out I was rewarded in that by finding out that there was daily noon meetings, which I will tell you as somebody coming from another country who is used to getting into a lot of AA meetings was very reassuring. And so I would, say that we're very lucky here to have a well-organized group that has really bounced back from a period during the pandemic when things were a little tough to get people together, and now it is thriving again and open to all kinds of people, new people, returnees, anybody that is interested in getting and staying sober.
Awesome. And you mentioned that this was obviously a key reason for you choosing Cuenca. Did you come across any other similar groups in other cities during or throughout Ecuador?
Well, what I found through travel over the years is that unless it's a very big city, and even in some of those, you don't find a lot of well-organized AA meetings in English. They're here and there, and it's instead of being on a regular schedule. So it was a pleasant surprise to find it here.
And what was it like walking into the very first AA meeting here in Cuenca? What sort of feelings did you have?
Yeah, this is the great thing, is if you're lucky enough to be in the program, you find that when you enter a meeting, you're automatically with friends. So you have a community that you can attach yourself to instantly. And in terms of, support for your sobriety and for being a newcomer in the new city, where to go, where to shop, where to eat, where to look for an apartment. The connections are wonderful.
Great. So it's beyond that, support for whatever the core need is. Let's say it's Alcoholics Anonymous in this instance. It's much more beyond.
Way beyond. Yeah.
That's really good to know. And in terms of advice to people that are considering turning up to their first meeting, do you have anything that you would potentially want to share with them?
Well, for people that have not been to an AA meeting, I can tell you it's not as scary as you think. And we make a pretty big effort here in this group to welcome newcomers, whether they're first-timers or people that are coming back from, having gone back out into to drinking, and that's part of our disease. So we're used to that. We're used to having people who are uh, trying to get sober again.
That's very interesting. And in terms of the format for the meetings, like someone like me, my only real knowledge of AA comes from the movies. And so the format for the meetings, let's just talk about the AA meeting in particular right now. Is it like we see in the movies? Like you turn up and everyone's in a circle and people just share whenever they feel like sharing? Or can you just walk me through how they work?
Yes, well, so I've seen those portrayals myself in many TV shows and movies. It's a very popular scene in a lot of shows. Sometimes they get it right, and sometimes they truncate it for the filming. I would say that I wouldn't make any assumptions about what meetings are like from watching those shows or movies. Um, I'd say it's a much more fulfilling experience than you see, and you know, it- we we find that you're able to assimilate pretty easily, and I think some of those shows uh, isolate the one character that's trying to find help, and it turns out to be a different experience than we really have, a less uh, I should say rewarding, less fulfilling. So yeah, it's a lot better in the real.
So what is the real life experience, like the actual format of the meeting?
Well, meetings are formatted differently depending on where you are in the world and where you are even in Cuenca. We have several different formats that are used. We have in here we are typically engaged in, we'll call them the discussion meetings. Okay. Sometimes those are kicked off with readings from some of the approved AA books and literature. And that starts people thinking about how does that impact, or how does that reflect my own sobriety, and gives them something to connect to as they share. But it can be pretty informal, and we don't make anybody talk that's not ready to talk. And it's generally pretty relaxed, but it's very interesting to see what people share, and it tends to be very, very personal.
So especially for the first meeting, people can just turn up and just not be a passive observer as such, but they don't have to share or do anything that they're not
Nobody
comfortable
has to
with.
do anything. There are no rules in this organization. Yeah, nobody has to do anything. You just come.
Great, thanks, Alex. And Chuck, moving on to you and your experience, do you mind just sharing with us your journey and the impact that these meetings have had on you?
Sure, thank you. Alcoholism is one of those things that can happen to somebody at any point in their life. And my experience is that I liked alcohol and drugs, and started off at a pretty young age. And my first experience with the 12 steps in Alcoholics Anonymous was actually when I was 16 years old. But then you go about 40 years later, and I end up looking towards retirement, and I realized that I needed to do something different or I was going to die. I like it too much. Too much time passes by if all I do is, eat and sleep and then get drunk. And a lot of bad things can happen, and a lot of life can happen while I'm pretty much just drunk. And so what are my priorities? What are my, thinking about things about the future and that sort of thing brought me to Alcoholics Anonymous, wanting to have a better life. And I think that's one of the key things is, anybody can, it's just like losing weight. If you go on a diet, anybody can go on a diet and lose some weight. And anybody can stop drinking and stay stopped for a while. But eventually they start again. And the same thing with a diet. We tend to go back to what we've done before. The key thing here for me is to find out and to change what it is that made me want to drink in the first place. What about life that made me want to drink can I leave behind? What can I do to make a different life that doesn't make me want to have to drink every day? So that's where, it's a lot more than just not drinking. It's what do I do then? How do I live?
And I think that's where some of the sense of community and connection comes into it that Alex was talking about. Can you just give me your overview in how this group has helped to form your sense of community here in Cuenca.
Absolutely. You know, my first visit to Cuenca was in 2017, and at that time I was still drinking, but I knew I liked the town, and so I came back in 2018 and stayed for a month. And I was already in AA back in the United States, and I saw that there was, in one of the newspapers, I saw that there was a meeting here, and I came for a visit, and it was, like Alex said, it was like walking into a place where you know everybody, even though I didn't. We had something in common. They made me feel comfortable. They offered me coffee. They took me out to lunch afterwards. They didn't buy it. but you know, it's good to find places like that. And at that time, I didn't speak Spanish. Now, I'm pretty bilingual now, but at that time, it was good to find other English-speaking people, not just at a bar, because that's definitely where I would have tended to end up. And I think there's plenty of those here in Cuenca.
So it's a really good point. And you talked before about going out to lunch. Where does the funding for this group come from?
That's a good question. You know, AA has 12 steps, and they also have what's called 12 traditions. And one of their traditions is that each group is self-supporting. So basically, you pass the hat. And if you have enough money, you can put $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 or $10 or $20 even in there. And people contribute a little bit here and there, and it pays the rent. And basically, that's what we have to do. And we do make a contribution to the local AA group, which is all the Spanish-speaking groups here. We're involved in that larger organization. And then it eventually goes to AA International.
Awesome.
I could just throw in my 2 cents on this. It was found over time that we have to keep the organization at break even and no more. We keep a little prudent reserve for emergencies like the pandemic, where we need to pay some expenses when we're not collecting money. But we are not about money. Whereas a lot of organizations are focused in that area, we are focused away from it. So we don't have to argue about it.
Sure. But you were able to stay self-sustaining throughout COVID?
The fact that, yeah, it took a little extra effort and a little extra passing of the hat, but we did. And we got some help from the landlord, too.
Yeah. Fantastic. But this is a very central location. You know, you guys are set up extremely well. So in terms of the address itself, do you guys just mind sharing where it is and how to get here?
I would love to tell you about that. It's 7-68 Presidente Borrero. And so we're a block and a half, basically, from Parque Calderon. If you just come on down Sucre to the east, 1 block, and we're right there just down the street.
So easy access with the Tranvia as well? For
those. Yeah, it's a 5-minute walk from the Tranvia, and buses come down half a block away, and so it's very easy
access. Yeah, I tell the taxi drivers drop me at Borrero y Córdoba.
Super. Awesome. And I know we've spoken mostly about the AA side of things, but do you mind just walking me through, Chuck, some of the other types of groups that also operate out of this space? That's
a great question. Yeah, there are lots of 12-step type recovery groups around the world. And here we now have a Narcotics Anonymous meeting, which is geared more towards drug abuse. And we also have an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. Those are called NA and OA, Overeaters Anonymous. And the other one that we have is Al-Anon. And Al-Anon was started by the founder of AA's wife and some other women. At the time, primarily it was the men that were going to the meetings, and they support the families of alcoholics.
Yeah, great. And is also a women's focused group as well?
That's right, there is. On Wednesday mornings at 10:30, we have a women's meeting.
Great. So most of these meetings, they're weekly. Some are daily, though.
Yeah, AA is every single day at noon. And then the NA meeting is weekly on Thursday afternoons. And Overeaters Anonymous is weekly on Tuesday mornings. And the women's meeting is on Wednesdays, and Al-Anon is on Mondays and Thursdays. So there's a mix, but we've got that posted.
Yeah, we'll provide a link to the details as well. So in terms of, that's very helpful. I appreciate both of your time. I'm going to open up the floor now. Anything that you guys want to potentially mention at all about, especially someone that's on the fence about coming to one of these meetings for the first time?
That's a really good question. What if you're new to this and aren't sure whether it's for you? And I would say that it's pretty painless. And I thought it was going to be painful when I first got involved. But what I found out was that uh, it's a it's a pretty stress-free way to learn about uh, how we do things and what we do and how it helps just to show up and listen. There's no requirements. You don't we don't like put you through an orientation or any of that. It's strictly have a seat and listen. And if you want to say something, you can. But I'd say to anybody that's new to the program and thinking that they might have a problem with alcohol, this is a pretty good place to come to find out.
Awesome. Anything from you?
Well, I would like to say, all of our meetings here are open meetings. And that means that if you are not an alcoholic, but maybe there's an alcoholic in your life, or you are like Alex was saying, you may not be sure about yourself, it's okay to come and see what it's like. And then it's not therapy, it's not a treatment center. Those things exist, but this is not that.
Do you provide recommendations if someone does want that type of treatment?
That could definitely happen, and it's not something that normally would be happening in a meeting. That would be more of a one-on-one kind of a thing after or before a meeting. One of the popular things they do is to have a sponsor who guides one through the steps of the program, but it's more of a personal relationship rather than a therapy type thing.
And that's only if you want one.
Yeah.
It's not a requirement.
No.
No, that's good to know as well. So it's really, really good to know that these type of support networks exist. If someone does want to turn up, what do they need to do? Do they need to register somewhere, or they just literally turn up and away they go?
Just walk in.
Walk on in. Yeah.
We got coffee?
You do. You do have coffee. Awesome. Well, thank you both very much for your time today. And remember, if you are on the fence about getting help, do know that there is a community here in Cuenca that is happy to help you. Thank you again, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, our next guest is very close to me. You may even know her. Her name is Michelle. She runs Death Talk Cuenca, and she happens to be my partner. Michelle, thanks for joining us today. What exactly is Death Talk Cuenca?
Well, Death Talk Cuenca is a movement that we are trying to build in the city, and it was born back in April this year when I met these lovely doulas that started a movement in Latin America. So after being an entire weekend talking about that, I felt so alive that I was like, why not sharing this with everybody?
Awesome. And my understanding is that you have a couple different things underneath the Death Talk Cuenca brand. What exactly do you do?
Well, this is a work in progress right now, but the first thing that we started doing here in the city was the Death Cafes. And the Death Cafes is a concept, it's a movement from UK, where it's a non-profit organization that started creating these spaces for people to talk about death openly, freely, with no judgments, no agenda. And it started kicking in. So after the founder died back in 2017, they started spreading the love everywhere, and this became worldwide. So this is something we're gonna have our third meeting this Monday, and it's been a blast. It's been really, really good.
Awesome. So you're talking about the death cafes, and I understand there's a couple of different models. One is in English and the others are in Spanish. Is there any other difference between the two groups?
Well, I feel like every death cafe is different, even if it is one in English or the other one in Spanish. The ones in English we held in Idiomart, and the Spanish version we held in Casa Madre Luna. And yeah, I feel like every time it's a different thing. It's a different topic. It's a different dynamic with the people. So it's really, really enriching.
Awesome. And my understanding is that it definitely differs from a traditional support group.
Oh, yes.
So can you just run me through what, let's say, the death cafes in particular, what they are and maybe what they are not?
Yes. So we are definitely not a support group per se, but if you come to a death cafe, you're going to find a lot of support from the sharing with other people, your thoughts around that. But in this instance, it's not like you have someone who has the most knowledge around it, who direct everything. It's more like we are all in the same level, we are all sharing our experiences, and we all enrich our lives through the experiences of everybody. So that's the main difference between a grief group or a counseling group, where you have a moderator who kind of guide you through the things in a certain direction. Here we have an open space where you can just talk about that.
Awesome. So if you're looking for like a one-on-one grief counseling type session, that's not traditionally something that you would offer, right?
Not under the Death Cafe movement, but we actually are connected with some death doulas that speak English. One of them came here to Cuenca on the first Death Cafe, and she happens to be one of my dearest friends and one of the reasons why I started this in Cuenca. And she does do counseling sessions one-on-one depending on the circumstances. But yes, this is something that we are working together with her to see how we can make it happen here. But also, because of the Death Cafe movement, I've received some calls of people saying like, hey, I'm a death doula and I would like to see how I can be more involved in Cuencas, and they are really excited to join. So we are working on that right now.
Awesome. Now, coming back to the death cafes, I have been to a couple of these which you've run, and I have to be honest, I received more value than I thought I would going into them. I thought I was just coming to support you and all that good stuff, but no, I did personally get some value. What is your experience from other people that have come? How are they generally perceived by the people that have been visiting?
Well, I feel like the first thing they come because they are curious of the name. You know, Death Cafe is kind of like, what is this about? The first time they sometimes, you know, they are very close and saying, okay, I'm just coming here to listen and see what is the vibe in here. But all the sessions that we had so far, at the end of the sessions, everybody's just sharing, laughing, sometimes crying too, because it's allowed to just feel emotions. And on the closing sessions, I always tell the people, like, what are you taking from this? And the average is like, I'm feeling alive. And that's one of the beauties of death. Every time that you speak about it, you just unblock a lot of feelings and sensations inside you that makes you just release that tension that you sometimes don't even knew that it existed inside you. And then you are just free of those and you are just feeling happy and relaxed.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And what would you say to someone that hasn't been to one of these death cafes yet, but they're sort of on the fence as to whether or not to go?
I would say just give it a try. It can be something that is for you. It can be something that is not built for everybody. Some other people don't feel like sharing to a group of people and they just prefer to have like a one-on-one session with somebody who actually wants, like they want guidance around some grieving problems or something. So I would say like just try it, come, be open to the new idea, and you will find yourself coming back sometimes maybe.
See, and the format itself for the death cafes, it seems to me like there's a small amount of structure, but not much. Can you just walk through what we can potentially expect?
Okay, so yeah, the basic structure of the Death Cafe is just finding a space where we can be together, and we have some snacks on or coffees and such. I'm gonna tell you, the coffee hasn't been that famous in the Death Cafes, to be fair, because it's like kind of late at night and people is like, no, I'm not taking coffee here. So we can have also some tea and such, and the idea is just to be relaxed and talk. But we've seen that in Latin America, it's also a cultural thing. In every city and in every country can be a little bit different. In Latin America, we are joining the Death Cafes with art. So there are some like special edition Death Cafes where you come here, and while you're expressing yourself, you can also express yourself just not by talking, but just drawing or writing. Or you can, you know, let yourself out there and explore. So this is something that is becoming very popular, and I'm for sure having some of those sessions. We are cooking some really interesting things for probably November, December. So yes, it depends on the culture, basically.
Awesome. So everyone might be a little bit different, is
Yes.
what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
Great. And I understand the Death Talk Cuenca project is more than just the death cafes. That's obviously a part of it. Can you elaborate on what other activities or services come underneath the Death
Sure thing.
Death Talk Cuenca brand?
Well, Death Talk Cuenca brand became a brand after hearing the needs of the community. After being in some of the death cafes, there was a lot of people asking similar questions, like, I don't know how to make a will in Ecuador that can really be accepted in US, or how do I move my beloved loved one bodies back to the US? What are the paperwork, or things like, what are my options for dying? Can I do eco-friendly kind of burials? So there's a lot of questions that the community has that I encounter myself not knowing really well. And as you know me, I like solving problems. So this is how this started. I'm in the mission right now to find the providers, like legal providers, death doulas, grieving counselor, and trying to put everything together in a platform so the expat community can have access to that and answer all the questions that they have. And also trying to make sure that the services that I provide there are the best quality, price and service to the people that needs this. And I feel like this is something that people will feel really grateful for, especially being in a foreign country and trying to deal with all these paperworkings and such can be very tedious.
There's a lot of practical matters that a lot of expats just have no idea how to solve. So I do think there's a definite need for that. And you did mention transporting human remains back to the US or wherever that home country happens to be. But I also know that you have some products, the life urns, that I'm not sure if they can be used for that transporting. You tell me. But what are the life urns and how do they differ from, let's say, a regular urn?
Yeah, so we have teamed up with Life Urns. Life Urns is it's a company based in Quito, and they sell the eco-friendly burial urns for ashes, and they have different categories. For example, one of my favorites is the living urn, where you have you can become a tree after you die. And you pick the tree that you like. It has to be a tree that grows in the area to make sure that it actually grows. And you just put the ashes there and it just come up. The nice thing is like the product itself makes that the roots of the tree just wrap around the ashes and just conserve them there. So it's really nice.
So the ashes are conserved for a period of time.
A period of time, of course.
Yeah. Awesome. That's really cool. And any last words for people that are thinking about getting involved in either the just Death Talk Cuenca or the Death Cafes?
Yeah, you can come and contact me. We usually hold these meetings once a month. In Idiomar, we hold them the second Monday of each month. And in Casa Madre Luna, we do it the last Friday of the month.
Sure, but the English ones are at Idiomart?
Yes, and Idiomart, 5 p.m. And just come and join us. Ask any questions you have. There's no bad questions. And you also can reach me. We have a Facebook group that is called Death Talk Cuenca. You can join and just shoot questions there. And we have a lovely community that just help out and give support.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you for opening this.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thanks for joining us today on Yapatry. Remember, whether you're considering a move to Cuenca or you're already here, there is a supportive community waiting for you. Don't be shy, take that first step and you'll be glad that you did. If you got value from this video, please do consider giving us a little like or subscribing for more content like this. Take care of yourself and we'll see you in the next video. Ciao.